Okay, you join us with Jacques Villeneuve's Formula One car from the 2000 season. So this is a BAR Honda, and this is just a short video to show you how I've created the steering wheel from scratch for this car. So the first stage was to identify the connections in the centre of the steering wheel, which is this one, and at the back end of the loom, which is this one. And that enables us to use the flexible loom which comes out the top of the steering column. The next part is to work out what that spline is, because that's a custom spline, and to do that I've used dental putty. Mix those two together, put the dental putty round here to take an impression. When that goes off, you can slide that dental putty off and then section it with a sharp knife, and using a shadowgraph you can measure the angles and all of the sizes of this spline and represent that in 3D CAD. The dashboard that's in there is my creation. That didn't come with the car, so that presumably all of those functions were on the steering wheel previously. So the next phase then is to create the quick release that holds the steering wheel based on information from measuring this spline. So this is the spline that we've measured from the car. So we've used our dental putty and we've sectioned the dental putty, put it onto a shadowgraph, and in 3D CAD I've been able to create this spline here and the recess where we're going to use a set of ball bearings to lock off in that recess for the quick release. And if I show you the bit next that I've made to go over that, we are going to cut a female spline using wire erosion into an aluminium part which slides onto that spline, and it's going to have a moving collar at the back. So I'll be able to move that collar backwards and forwards to release these balls and slide the whole assembly off the shaft, and that is going to become the basis for the steering wheel. So that front face there is what the steering wheel is going to bolt onto. So if I move on to the design of the steering wheel from this, this is again created from scratch because there's nothing out there that I can use apart from a central dashboard. So the dashboard here in the middle is from Geartronics, and that dashboard will display what gear we're in, what revs the engine's doing, and all of the engine parameters, and that needs to sit at the centre of the steering wheel. So it's housed in an aluminium lump which is green for the purposes of CAD and made transparent so that we can see the dashboard through it. And onto the back of that aluminium piece we're going to mount some gear change paddles as well. So we're going to have gear change paddles that rotate on these shoulder bolts and operate little micro switches in here. The steering wheel itself is going to have an aluminium plate structure, so that black component there is also aluminium, and that's going to be holding the hand grips in place, and it's going to hold this dashboard in place inside that green component with just a carbon fibre decorative panel on the outside. The carbon fibre decorative panel is going to be located on the Honda H logo, and these components here to form the grips of the steering wheel will be created with 3D printing. So we're going to have two identical grips, front and back, and then hopefully I'm going to upholster those then with Alcantara. So this is the quick release component that you saw on screen, and this is the female spline on the inside of the quick release, and that's been created with a wire erosion. So there's a wire that's gone down the middle and it's moved according to the CAD file to create the female spline on there, and it has a sprung set of balls in the back which will lock off on that column. And these are the steering wheel components. So these are also the parts that you saw on screen. That's the main body, and the gear change paddles attach into the back of it, and there's little micro switches in here. You can hear them go off. Maybe you can hear that, I don't know. But it's all aluminium, so it's not really how Honda would have done this. It would have been a bespoke carbon fibre piece, but I can machine in aluminium. So that's the main structure of the steering wheel, and there's a carbon fibre cover which goes over it, and it just locks onto the Honda logo, and then we're going to screw into that boss at the back, and that's the thing that takes the screen. So this is going to be the dashboard, and this has been supplied to me by Geartronics, and this will not only control the gearbox computer, but also there's a readout here for all of the engine parameters, things like oil pressure, water temperature, revs, and what gear you're in. So that's going to live in the centre of the steering wheel. I'm going to mount that in foam so that it's nicely protected, but it goes something like that. The grip for the steering wheel then has been 3D printed. So I've got one piece one side, one piece the other side, and then all of that's going to be wrapped in this grey Alcantara. So I need to figure out how to sew the Cantara up or glue it into place, I'm not sure which, but the finished steering wheel is going to look something like that. I can show you how the quick release works. So this is the quick release component, and it's got some sprung balls at the back which grip into a recess in the shaft, and the collar pulls back to release those balls. So if I just slide this on and release, it's then locked, and there's no play in that. It's a nice tight fit, and the whole thing releases from that collar. That whole thing had to be bespoke because there's nothing standard in here. All the quick releases that are on the market were all entirely different from this. That's one machined component. Here we have the finished thing. The Honda H has been polished back to give it an aluminium look, like a logo coming through the carbon fibre. The Alcantara, it was glued on and sewed into place in the end, so a bit of everything and some careful cutting to get it into this shape. I'll show you the wheel on the car, and we'll power up the dashboard to show you what it looks like. So this is the steering wheel fired up, and what you'll see when all of the sensors are connected, you'd see a number in the centre there for gear number, and then engine parameters around the outside, and a rev bar across the top. And that is my homemade Formula One steering wheel. I hope you've enjoyed my video.